The Silent Watchers. Admiral Sarah Chen stood at the observation deck of Outpost Theta, her eyes fixed on the holographic display showing thousands of classified sensor readings from across the galaxy. For 50 years, humanity had maintained this facade of being a primitive, pre-FTL civilization, all while building the most sophisticated surveillance network the galaxy had ever known. Another humanitarian crisis in the Vega sector. Lieutenant James Rodriguez reported, his dark eyes reflecting the red warning indicators. The Orcs Dominion is relocating another species. Third one this month. Sarah's jaw tightened. The Orcs' definition of relocation usually meant forcing entire populations into resource extraction colonies. All perfectly legal under the Galactic Concordat's Byzantine regulations, of course. "Show me the numbers," she ordered. The hologram shifted, displaying the desperate exodus of the Telar, a peaceful species of crystalline beings. Their ships, barely more than cargo haulers retrofitted for passenger transport, struggled to escape the Orcs' sleek warships. "They're heading for the sanctuary zone," James noted, "but the Orcs have already bribed the border control. They won't make it." Sarah walked closer to the display, her hand passing through the holographic refugees. Earth had watched scenarios like this play out countless times over the decades. Always observing, gathering intelligence, building their strength in secret, while the galaxy's powerful preyed on the weak. "Admiral," a new voice called out. Dr. Emily Wong, Earth's leading xenoanthropologist, hurried onto the observation deck. "You need to see this." The scientist's usually calm demeanor was shaken. She quickly uploaded new data to the holographic display. "We finally decoded the Orcs' long-range communications. They're not just targeting the Telar. This is the beginning of a systematic purge of all crystalline-based species in their sector." Sarah's blood ran cold. Projected casualties. Conservative estimate. 12 billion sentients across 8 species. Emily's voice cracked. "They're calling it Operation Clarity, claiming these species represent a threat to organic life. It's all fabricated, but the Galactic Council will accept their evidence. They always do." The Admiral turned to face her senior staff, now gathered around the holographic display. Humanity had built their hidden fleet for exactly this kind of moment. Their ships, incorporating technologies supposedly impossible under known physics, were ready. The only question had been when to reveal themselves. "Get me a secure line to Earth Command," Sarah ordered, "and bring up everything we have on Orcs fleet movements." As her staff rushed to comply, Sarah studied the refugee ships again. Humanity had chosen isolation to protect themselves, to build their strength without interference. But what was the point of strength if you never used it to protect others? "Admiral," James called out, "Earth Command is online." Sarah straightened her uniform and faced the communication screen. "Command, this is Admiral Chen. I'm invoking Protocol Omega, requesting authorization to deploy the Sentinel fleet." There was a long pause. Protocol Omega, the end of humanity's isolation and the revelation of their true capabilities, had been debated in secret for years. The risks were enormous. Earth would be painting a target on itself, challenging the galaxy's power structure directly. Authorization granted, the response finally came. "God help us all." Sarah turned back to her staff. "Send word to all our hidden bases. I want the Sentinel fleet assembled at these coordinates in 6 hours. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity won't stand by while innocents suffer." "What about the Concordat?" James asked. "The moment we reveal ourselves, they'll declare us in violation of dozens of treaties we never signed." Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. "The Concordat is a tool of oppression disguised as law. Its time is over." She brought up a tactical display of Earth's hidden fleet. Humanity tried to join their galactic community legally 50 years ago. They pushed us away, tried to restrict our growth, demanded we accept their protection. So we smiled, played weak, and built something they never expected. Dr. Wong studied the fleet deployment plans. The Orcs will respond with everything they have. Their entire society is built on the idea of their technological superiority. Let them come, Sarah replied. Humanity's isolation ends today. Send word to all ships. Operation Lightbringer is now active. Primary objective: protect the Teller refugees. Secondary objective: show the galaxy that the era of unopposed tyranny is over. As her orders spread across the secure network, Sarah watched the refugee ships struggling through space. Soon they would discover they weren't alone. Soon the galaxy would learn that while they thought humanity was sleeping, they had instead been preparing for this very moment. Helm, she commanded, set course to intercept the refugee fleet. It's time to introduce ourselves to the galaxy. The observation deck darkened as Outpost Theta initiated its departure protocols. Hidden engines, powered by technologies the Orcs had declared impossible, hummed to life. Humanity's long watch was ending. The time for action had finally come. Breaking the chains. The Teller refugee fleet had no warning when the space around them began to ripple. Captain Vexna, her crystalline form dimmed with exhaustion, could only watch in bewilderment as massive shapes emerged from what should have been empty void. Unknown vessels detected. Her sensor officer chimed, the crystal being's harmonics reflecting confusion. Configuration: impossible. They're larger than Orcs dreadnoughts. The pursuing Orcs warships had also noticed the new arrivals. Their sleek predatory vessels pulled up sharply, formation breaking as they scrambled to analyze the threat. Aboard the Earth flagship Hyperion, Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with calculated calm. Open a channel to all ships in the area. Wide broadcast, all frequencies. The communications officer nodded, and Sarah stepped forward. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force. To the Teller refugee fleet, you are under our protection now. To the Orcs vessels pursuing them, withdraw immediately. The response was predictably arrogant. An Orcs commander appeared on screen, his scaled face twisted in contempt. Earth, the primitive world. Your interference is impossible and illegal. These crystalline abominations are under our protection. Sarah cut him off. Your next action determines how this encounter ends. Choose wisely. The Orcs commander's expression shifted from contempt to uncertainty as his sensors finally processed the true size and power readings of the Earth vessels. The Hyperion alone was 3 kilometers long, its black hull seeming to drink in starlight. Behind it, 5 more ships of similar size had emerged from their quantum veils. You cannot challenge the Concordat, the Orcs sputtered. The Council will. The Council will do nothing, Sarah replied. Because in about 5 minutes, they're going to be very busy dealing with similar scenes playing out in 12 other sectors. Humanity is done watching. Dr. Wong stepped up beside the Admiral, her voice clear. We've documented every illegal action, every forced relocation, every bribed official. The galaxy is about to learn some uncomfortable truths. The Orcs commander's scales darkened with rage. You dare. He cut off as new sensor data reached him. His ship's targeting systems, the most advanced in known space, couldn't lock onto the Earth vessels. Their electronic warfare suite was encountering mathematics it had never seen before. Last warning, Sarah announced. Withdraw, or we demonstrate why humanity chose to develop our technology in secret. The Orcs ships held position for a long moment. Then, with obvious reluctance, they began to turn away. This isn't over, the commander hissed. The Dominion will. We'll learn that the galaxy is changing. Sarah finished for him. Spread the word. The strong no longer get to prey on the weak unopposed. As the Orcs ships retreated, the Hyperion moved closer to the refugee fleet. Captain Vexna's voice came through, still uncertain but gaining strength. Earth vessel. We had heard rumors. Stories of a species that chose isolation rather than submit to Concordat control. But this. The rumors were true, Sarah replied, and incomplete. We've been watching, learning, and preparing. Today marks the beginning of something new. She nodded to Dr. Wong, who stepped forward. Captain Vexna, Emily began, we have coordinates for you, a safe haven where your people can rebuild. The Arxer won't find you there. Our quantum veil technology will make sure of that. Why? The crystalline captain asked. Why help us? Sarah smiled. Because it's right. Because we refuse to join a galactic society that preys on the weak. Because humanity remembers its own history. The strong helping the strong crush the weak. All in the name of law and order. We chose a different path. Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out. Earth ships, hidden for decades, revealing themselves to stop acts of oppression. The quantum communication network hummed with reports of human vessels appearing impossible places, protecting the helpless, challenging the untouchable. Admiral, Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, the Arxer are mobilizing their main fleet. And yes, the Council is calling an emergency session. Sarah nodded. Right on schedule. Inform all Earth vessels. Phase 2 begins now. Dr. Wong, please begin broadcasting the evidence. Every dirty deal, every forced relocation, every peacekeeping mission that was actually extraction of resources from helpless worlds. The galaxy deserves to know what their precious Concordat really means. The Teller ships, their crystalline hulls catching starlight, fell into formation behind the Earth vessels. Soon, they would be joined by others, all the species who had suffered under the Concordat's version of peace. The Arxer and the Council thought they had all the cards. Sarah mused, watching the tactical display light up with new contacts. They never realized we were playing a different game entirely. The revolution wasn't being fought with just ships and weapons. It was being fought with truth, with the simple act of saying no more to tyranny. And it had only just begun. Ripples of revolution. The Galactic Council's emergency session descended into chaos as the evidence stringed across every quantum communication channel. Dr. Emily Wong had done her work well. 50 years of documented abuses, corrupt deals, and orchestrated relocations played in devastating detail. Lies. The Arxer High Commander bellowed, his scaled fist cracking the ornate podium. These humans fabricate excuses for their illegal interference. But the smaller species representatives were already talking among themselves, sharing their own stories that matched Earth's evidence perfectly. The Concordat's carefully maintained facade was crumbling. Aboard the Hyperion, Admiral Chen watched the Council broadcast with quiet satisfaction. How many requests for protection so far, Lieutenant? Rodriguez consulted his display. 47 species have officially asked for Earth's help, Admiral. 15 more are considering it. The Arxer's Operation Clarity wasn't just targeting the Teller. They had plans for subjugating nearly a quarter of known space. And now those plans are exposed. Dr. Wong added, studying new data streams. Along with the Council members who approved them in secret sessions. The quantum data packets we released are being copied faster than they can be censored. Sarah nodded. Earth's strategy wasn't just military. It was about changing the narrative. For too long, the powerful species had controlled information, painting their predatory actions as peacekeeping. That monopoly on truth was over. Admiral, the tactical officer called out. Multiple Arxer battle groups are converging on our position. They're forcing civilian ships to accompany them. Sarah's expression hardened. Living shields. As expected. Signal the fleet. Initiate Maneuver Phoenix. The Earth ships smoothly split into smaller groups, their quantum drives spinning up. The Arxer commander's voice crackled over the comm. Surrender now, primitives. Your interference ends today. Interesting choice of words, Sarah replied calmly. Primitive. You've used that dismissal against every species you've subjugated. Tell me, Commander, do primitive species usually do this? At her signal, the Earth fleet vanished, not through conventional cloaking, but through quantum tunneling, appearing instantly behind the Arxer formation. Before they could react, precision beams of energy lanced out, destroying the Arxer ship's weapon systems while leaving their hulls intact. Impossible. The Arxer commander's voice shook. The energy requirements alone were solved decades ago. Sarah cut him off. While you were busy oppressing others, humanity was advancing. We didn't sign your Concordat because we saw it for what it was, a cage designed to keep other species weak and dependent. The tactical display lit up with new contacts as more Earth ships revealed themselves across the sector. The Arxer battle groups found themselves surrounded by vessels that seemed to ignore the laws of physics as they knew them. Listen carefully, Sarah broadcast to all ships. Your weapons are disabled. Your civilian shields are free to leave. We've transmitted safe coordinates to them. This sector is now under Earth protection, by request of its indigenous species. Dr. Wong stepped forward. The data we're releasing shows how the Arxer manipulated council law to justify their actions. But it also shows something else, proof that many of their advanced technologies were stolen from species they conquered, then suppressed to maintain control. The quantum network buzzed with reactions as more species came forward, confirming Earth's claims. The Arxer had built their dominion on stolen innovation and carefully maintained ignorance. Your choice is simple, Sarah continued. Withdraw from this sector peacefully, or we demonstrate more of what primitive humans can do. Your fleet's quantum communications are already under our control. You can't call for reinforcements. The Arxer ships hung motionless, their commanders facing a situation their superiority complex hadn't prepared them for. The civilian vessels they'd brought as shields were already breaking formation, fleeing toward the coordinates Earth had provided. Admiral, Rodriguez reported, the council chamber. They're calling for a vote of no confidence in the current leadership. The smaller species are uniting against the Arxer and their allies. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Inform all Earth vessels. Maintain position, but do not fire unless fired upon. The galaxy is about to learn that true strength isn't about domination. It's about protection, innovation, and the courage to stand up to bullies. The revolution wasn't being won through superior firepower, but through the simple act of showing the oppressed that they weren't alone. Humanity had emerged not as conquerors, but as defenders, and that, more than any weapon, was changing the galaxy forever. The storm breaks. The Arxer's final gambit began with a massive quantum surge that lit up sensors across 3 sectors. Their entire reserve fleet had emerged from hyperspace. Thousands of warships gathered from across their dominion, surrounding the Earth forces in a sphere of overwhelming firepower. Quite the show of force, Admiral Chen remarked calmly, studying the tactical display aboard the Hyperion. The Arxer ships glowed like angry stars, their weapons charged and ready. They'd brought everything, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported. Even stripped their home defense fleets. Total count, 3,400 capital ships. Dr. Wong's hands flew over her console. The quantum network is flooded with their propaganda. They're claiming this is a peacekeeping action to stop human aggression. Sarah nodded. Of course they are. Because if they admit the truth, that they're trying to stop us from protecting others, their whole system crashes down. She straightened her uniform. Open a channel to their command ship. The Arxer Supreme Commander appeared on screen, his scales dark with rage. This ends now, human. You've disrupted the peace of the galaxy long enough. Surrender your fleet or be destroyed. Peace. Sarah's voice was quiet but carried steel. Is that what you call forcing species into slave labor? Stealing their technologies? Using their children as hostages to ensure compliance? We maintain order, the commander snarled. Without us, without the Concordat, there would be chaos. You mean without your boot on everyone's neck? Sarah's eyes hardened. Humanity remembers its own history, how the strong always justify crushing the weak. We chose a different path. The tactical display shifted, showing new energy signatures appearing throughout the Arxer formation. Their ship's engines were fluctuating, power systems struggling against an invisible force. What are you doing? The commander's voice shook as reports flooded in. Showing you why we stayed hidden for 50 years. Sarah nodded to her crew. Initiate Protocol Zereth. Across the battlefield, hundreds of quantum nodes activated, tiny devices Earth had seeded throughout the sector over decades. Each one began emitting a precise frequency that interfered with the Orcs ship's stolen technology. You see, Sarah explained as the massive Orcs fleet began to drift powerless, we didn't just watch you. We studied every piece of technology you stole, found its flaws, its weaknesses. The species you stole from, they helped us, quietly, patiently, waiting for this day. The commander's scales paled as more systems failed across his fleet. This is impossible. Our technology isn't yours, Dr. Wong cut in. The quantum drive you use, stolen from the Taylor. The shield harmonics, taken from the Vex. You didn't innovate. You just took and suppressed. And now all those species have helped us build a key to unlock your stolen house of cards. The Hyperion moved forward, its massive form dwarfing even the Orcs command ship. Around it, the rest of the Earth fleet emerged from quantum tunnels, their weapons powered but not targeting. Here's what happens next, Sarah announced, her voice carrying to every ship in the sector. Your fleet is disabled. Temporarily. We could destroy you, but that's not our way. Instead, we're giving you a choice. She gestured, and Dr. Wong transmitted a series of coordinates. These are the locations of quantum stabilizers. They'll let you restore power to your ships. You can use that power to fire on us, starting a war you can't win. Or you can withdraw. Completely. From every sector where you forced your protection on others. You can't. The commander began. We already have. Sarah's voice was firm. Look at your quantum network. While we've been talking, representatives from 40 species have signed a new accord. Not a concordat of control, an alliance of equals. Earth will share its defensive technology with all of them. No more stolen innovations. No more suppressed species. The tactical display showed the Orcs ships floating powerless, their crews facing a choice that would reshape the galaxy. Around them, ships from formerly subjugated species were emerging from quantum tunnels, ready to reclaim their worlds and their dignity. Remember this moment, Sarah broadcast to all ships. Remember that humanity didn't come to conquer or control. We came to protect, to help others stand up. The age of predators is over, if you choose to let it end peacefully. The revolution wasn't won with a massive battle, but with the quiet triumph of preparation over arrogance, of protection over predation. The galaxy was changing, one choice at a time. Dawn of a new era. 3 months after the confrontation that became known as the Silent Victory, Admiral Sarah Chen stood in Earth's new embassy on the former Galactic Council station. The crystalline walls no longer reflected privilege and power, but hope. Delegates from over 60 species worked together in chambers that once housed their oppressors. The last Orcs battle group left Sector 7 this morning. Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, now wearing the insignia of the new Galactic Alliance. Their withdrawal is complete. Dr. Wong looked up from her data terminal. More importantly, the knowledge-sharing initiative is exceeding expectations. The Teller crystalline computing technology, combined with Vex quantum theories, we're seeing innovations that would have been impossible under the old system. Sarah nodded, watching ships from dozens of species dock at the station. The Orcs' choice to withdraw rather than fight had avoided devastating war, but the real victory was what came after. Species that had been forced to hide their innovations were now collaborating openly, protected by Earth's defensive network. Administrator Chen, a harmonic voice chimed. Captain Vexna, now the Teller representative to the Alliance, approached. Her crystalline form glowed with renewed vigor. The first Joint Defense Fleet is ready for inspection. Together they moved to the observation deck. Below, ships of various designs flew in formation. Earth vessels alongside newly constructed ships from formerly suppressed species. Each incorporated shared technology, but with unique innovations reflecting their builders' perspectives. Different approaches, different solutions, Sarah mused. Exactly what the Orcs feared. They thought control meant strength. They weren't entirely wrong. A new voice added. Supreme Commander Kex of the former Arxer Dominion stepped onto the deck. After the withdrawal, a younger generation of Arxer had overthrown their leadership, choosing to join the alliance as equals rather than rulers. Strength does come from unity, Kex continued, his scales showing the subtle patterns of reformed Arxer culture. But they confused unity with uniformity. True strength comes from diversity, from combining different ways of thinking. Dr. Wong activated a holographic display showing technological advancement rates across Alliance space. The curve rose sharply, marking innovations that emerged when species were free to share and build on each other's knowledge. The quantum shielding we developed in secret. Sarah pointed to one indicator. The Taylor improved it by 60% by applying their crystalline computing. The Vex added their harmonic theories and doubled its effectiveness again. And my people, Kex added quietly, are learning that innovation through cooperation achieves more than acquisition through force. Lieutenant Rodriguez approached with a new report. The first joint scientific expedition is ready for launch. 17 species working together to explore the galaxy's outer rim, something that would have been illegal under the old Concordat. Sarah smiled, remembering humanity's long watch. We hid our advancement for 50 years, building in secret while they thought us primitive. Not because we wanted power, but because we saw what power without wisdom had done to the galaxy. And now, Vexna asked, her crystalline form catching starlight. Now we all advance together. Sarah gestured to the ships below. Not Earth leading or controlling, but all species contributing their unique perspectives. Protection without domination. Progress without suppression. The observation deck fell quiet as they watched the joint fleet perform their maneuvers. Ships of all designs moved in harmony, their crews learning to work together across species barriers that once seemed insurmountable. There will be challenges, Kex noted. Change never comes easily. But it comes, Sarah replied. One choice at a time. The choice to protect rather than dominate. To share rather than hoard. To trust rather than fear. The quantum network hummed with activity, scientific data, cultural exchanges, innovations freely shared. The galaxy was transforming not through conquest, but through cooperation. Humanity had emerged from isolation not as conquerors or saviors, but as catalysts for change. The old council called it peace, Dr. Wong reflected, when they really meant control. We showed them real peace, built on respect, protected by strength, and sustained by wisdom. Sarah watched an Earth ship dock alongside vessels from former enemy species. The revolution hadn't just changed the galaxy's power structure. It had changed how power itself was understood. The future would be built not by the strongest alone, but by all species working together, each contributing their unique strengths to a greater whole. The age of predators was over. The age of collaboration had begun.